Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my Discord bot tutorial series. And in today's video, we're going to build a member count for the voice channels. So let us dive into the demo. We're going to create a new channel. So create channel, and we're going to name the voice channel as in test. Gonna create channel, and now I'm going to join the channel. So once we join, we will wait for 50 seconds. That's what I said when to update the channel with the member count, how many people there are in. And now you can see the member count has changed to one person being in the channel. And if I leave the channel, now you can see number channel count has gone to 0 because there are no people on the channel. So this is one of the use case, and you can do this to multiple channels that you create, or you can have a standalone channel which actually tracks number of people are on the voice channels. So now let's dive into the prerequisite section. Now you want to head over to your browser and open my GitHub repository link, which will be down below in the descriptions, and you can go ahead and clone or download the entire repository for you to use this bot. Now, please do note that by the time you download, everything will be updated, so you need not require to code, but I highly recommend you to follow the tutorial so it will help you or guide you if you need to modify or understand a bit and bobs in this code the parts are used. So I will go ahead and download the file, and once you have downloaded the file and you have opened up with your preferred IDE or a text editor in this case, you want to go ahead and open terminal either from your command line prompt or within your IDE or text editor in this case. And what we're going to do, we're going to create a virtual environment. So to do that, we're going to type in Python 3 -m and then vem, and then name of the virtual environment. So you can call this tutorial in this case, right? And once you do that, then push enter, and that will create the virtual environment. Then now you want to activate that virtual environment. So I'll go ahead and show you the Windows version first, then the Linux and Mac OS. So for Windows, you're gonna call the name of the virtual environment. So if you have set this to tutorial, let's say, then you're gonna call the tutorial, and then backward slash, and then scripts, and then backward slash, and then activate.bat. And that should activate your virtual environment in terms of Python. And to do it on Linux and Mac OS, so you're going to do SOS source tutorial, the name of the virtual environment, then /bin/activate, and that should activate your virtual environment. But I already have them set up. I just wanted to make sure that I show you. The next thing you want to do is go to my README section of the folder. If you can open README sections from your IDE, that's good. If not, then you can head over to the browser. Let me find my browser real quick. And what you can do, if you scroll down, you will find this installation guide. And what you can do, you can copy this line of code, come back to the PyCharm or whatever the editor you have. You can right click and paste it there on your terminal or command prompt. And then you can go ahead and install. What this will do, it will install all the requirements file, the packages that is required for this project. It's declared within the requirements.txt file, and that should download all the files. And this goes for the prerequisites. And the next section we're going to dive into is set up some of the file folders and configuring the bot itself. Now on the file itself, the repository, you want to go ahead and open the command sections and the database sections, and we're going to create 2 new files real quick. Right click on the commands and go ahead and create Python file in this case. So I'm going to call this voice member and then count. And that should do that. I'll go ahead and cancel this. And right click on database sections and then just take a normal file. And we're going to call this voice member count. .json. I'll go ahead and cancel this. Take 2 parentheses, push enter, go ahead and save all. Now I'll come to this Python file in a minute. The next thing you want to go to the .env file, go ahead and open. You will see the token. You have to insert your tokens here in order to work with my files. If you are just taking the snippet of the code from there, then you don't have to really worry about these setup sections until you're somebody new and you just want to get everything ready and sorted and trying to get it work. Then you have to insert the token here. So to do that, go ahead and open your browser, go to discord.com/developer sections where you have your applications, and go down to the bot sections. And if you scroll down here, first thing, you will see there's something called present intents and server member intents. Make sure they're turned on because I've declared them on my code. So you have to turn them on, otherwise you will run into errors. Next thing you want to do, go ahead and copy your bot tokens. And you want to go back to the editor. And I'll go ahead and... The next thing you want to do, go to the main.py file, scroll down. And here you will find on line number 26 await ctxsend.error. So if there's any error, internal errors or external errors, you want them to send or print, whichever you prefer. You can uncomment this, and this will print this out on your Discord rather than coming back and forth, and you get to see your error much clearly. But do note that if you're using this code into your productions, make sure to comment back this line. You don't want this to print everything out during your application being in production. So go ahead and save all, and that should be it for the file setup. Let's start by importing the packages that we need within our Python file of voice member count. Let's say import time, import JSON, and then from discord.ext, we're going to import 2 things. First is commands and tasks, which we're going to set up later. So now let's create our class. So class, and call it voice member count. And gonna bring the commands.cog here. And let's define our constructor, and then go down here, and I'm going to say self.bot equals to bot. Oops. Come out of here, then define setup, and within there it takes the bot. Going to come out there, and then we say bot.add cog, and then call the class name itself, which is voice member count, and which takes the bot. Perfect. And let's go ahead and reformat this. Cool. And that should be fine. Okay, I forgot to add bot here. There you go. And shouldn't complain. So let's go ahead and hit save. Now, let me walk you through the business logic here, or just a base case and the edge cases that we're going to cover. So the first thing first, basically, we're going to take a listener, where we're actually going to listen if somebody joins the channel that we have. And if somebody does, then we get the channel ID. If the channel ID is not present at our database sections, which is basically the file where we're storing our JSON files, so right here. So we're going to store that with the user ID. And if that, for example, if that channel ID exists in our database, then what we're going to do, we're going to append a new user ID into our JSON file, and so on. Later, basically, when somebody leaves, we're also going to take that out of that key. So they're going to be like a key pair values. So the values will be the user ID, and the key will be the channel ID in this case. Now you can restructure it if you are thinking of probably providing this as in globally, sort of like, so if you have the bot that provides to more than one server, like multiple servers, then you probably should be doing taking the server ID. Then within the server ID, you should have the user the channel ID and then the user ID. So either way it should work. So it just needs to be a little modified there. So let us implement where we actually add a user and the channel ID. And basically, if this existing channel ID, then we add the only user. So let us go ahead and do that. So I'm going to start by commands dot cog dot listener. Yep, that should do. Let's define our method. So async define on ready. Sorry, on voice. I think on voice, not on ready. Yes, on voice state update. Perfect. And this will take member, then before, and then after. So you guys can check the documentation out that what this method takes, because we're gonna do method invocation of the discord.py classes, right? So these methods are part of there, and when we invoke those methods here, we have to call their properties. So that's what's gonna happen. So, and then I'm gonna say with open, and gonna open the file. So now for Windows, I always make sure that you guys are aware of this, because I know I'm using Mac here. So you're gonna have to use the / twice to get the to get inside the files. But for to accessing the files, for Mac and Linux, you can do the /. So it should be fine. So I'm going to use the /, but I will do update on / because I know most of my users are Windows users, so it is more relevant to them. And so I'm going to say data basis, and then voice member count count.json. Oops, too many errors today. And then I'm gonna read the file as a file. I'm gonna come out here, and I'm gonna load the file. So I'm gonna say voice member data equals to, and I'm gonna say json.load, and we're gonna load that file. Cool. So now we have that file. And now what we can do is it's basically do our checks. Before doing the checks, let me do one more thing here real quick. So I'm going to have to get the channel ID and the member ID, like I said, which will be storing or pending. So let us do that real quick before I can lay out the logic. New voice member member channel. I should call this member channel equals to string. So I'm going to take the string because you see these IDs are returned as a integer. If you do type hint, you can actually type and you can see in Python what type of data is that. So if you put data type here and if you insert whatever the stuff that you're retrieving, you can check their type. So they are integers. So I'm gonna have to cast them here as in a string. So member dot voice dot channel dot ID. Perfect. So now we're also gonna take the user ID. So new voice member ID equals to, and I'm gonna also turn that into a string, and I'm gonna say member dot ID. That's perfect. And now I can lay out the logic. So basically I'm gonna update existing user, and then basically if that user does not exist, then obviously I'm gonna go ahead and add the new user. So add new voice data, update existing voice, not user, existing voice data, because we're storing as a voice data, and add new voice data. I will make sure. Perfect. Cool. And so I'm gonna do checks. So if new, so let me push that into a little bit. So if new voice member, not ID, I'm gonna say channel. If the new voice member in the voice member data, then something's gonna happen, or else. So let's do the else part first, because it's pretty easy one. So or else voice member data, and you're gonna say new voice member, new voice member channel is equal to new voice member ID. So if these are not found, if that doesn't exist, then go ahead and create a new one. So that's why I'm covering the else part first, and then we'll do the if one. And you're gonna come down here and just say with open, and gonna say database right from here. So I'm just gonna copy this one actually. And rather than saying R, which is read, I'm going to say write as new voice member data. Right, I'm going to put the colon, going to come down here. I'm just going to close this one a bit more so that I can see that. And right here, I'm going to dump it. So JSON.dump. And going to dump it in the same location right here. Sorry, what I'm doing. So JSON.dump. Now I have to call actually the location. So voice member data, and the data which it's passing, which is new voice member data. And then I'm going to indent equals to 4. Sorry guys, they just got lost a little. So basically that's how I'm going to dump. And I'm also going to do something like sleep. So basically, you probably have noticed that a lot of people join and leave voice channels quite fast, and the data capturing seems to be sometimes collapsed, and I've seen it struggles to do that. So there are two cases that you can actually do here. You can actually put that method. Once that happens, you can put your piece that the particular code to sleep, so that particular sections, when it's completed, it can completely go to sleep, or it can synchronously go to sleep. So you can actually use something called async, and it also has a sleep basically function. So you can call that, so your entire program won't go to sleep, it will partially go to sleep and then come back to life basically while doing the other process. But there's another one to do, which is basically time.sleep, which will actually send the entire thing to sleep. And you can try both. So to use the async IO, you probably have to import it. So import async IO, and then what you can do is you can await async IO dot sleep, and you can sleep that to 1 second. So see which one works best for you guys. So literally I'll just give both options, because I did some testing, and I would prefer this one than this. There could be potentially data loss here, but here what will happen, that there's some other error will occur at some point of time, which needs to be handled. But here it's like even if your data is lost, then obviously on next update, because we're going to create a tasks, right, which runs every 10 minutes, which I'll come down later when we're going to edit the channel with the number of counts. And I will also have to explain why 10 minutes, because you can do only 2 requests per 10 minutes for editing the channel for in terms of the discord.py. You can look at the reference of the docs for further information. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, and also remove this because I don't need it at the moment. Now we can go to the if section part, and we're going to do a few more checks. So I'm going to go iterate over. So for item in, I'm going to turn that into a list, the item that we're going to iterate through. And I'm going to say voice member data dot values, because we want to get the values. So we're going to iterate through over values, and we're going to say if new voice member ID not in item, then go ahead and append that data. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So voice member data, I'm going to take the object here, and so I'm going to say new voice member channel, and then plus equal to, again, the object, and then I'm going to say new voice member ID. So enter that channel, the ID, user ID basically. And let's go ahead and do the write. So I'm going to say with open, and let's go ahead and copy this. Oops. Copy there. I'm going to say as update voice member data. That should do it. And I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to dump it. So JSON dot dump, and I'm going to say voice member data, comma, then updated data, and then indent equals to 4. Perfect. And I'm going to put that to sleep as well. Let's say time.sleep equals to 1 second. And that should do it for now. We're going to test this in a bit And right now, let's see what's okay. That should be fine. So I guess we can do some test here. To me, looks if there's any bug, we can fix that on the way. Perfect. You can go ahead and hit save. And let's go ahead and run our main.py. So you can actually run it from here, or you can hit the play button right there. And let's go to our Discord. I'm going to right click, create channel. I'm going to call this channel test. Oops, sorry, I'm going to select the voice channel first and then go to test. So we're going to create a new voice channel. And let's go ahead and join the channel. So I have joined, and let's take a look. And let's take a look here. And there you go. So this is the ID of that channel. So if I go here and right click here, copy ID. And if I come back here, I go down, you can see 323982398. That's the ID of that channel. And the user ID, it's basically my ID. Perfect. So that seems to be all good. So now what happens when when another person joins, then basically it will append that data there, right? So that's what's going to happen. Although it will not remove, if I remove myself now, it won't remove the data because if we don't have that functionality. So let's go ahead and implement that while we're thinking of that. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, put that to preset. Also remove myself from here, leave that channel over there. That's not an issue. So to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the ID. So basically once they join, they're fine. But once the person leaves the channel, we actually need to get their ID. So let's do that. So member ID is equals to, and I'm going to say string again, and then member.id, right? And let's have a look what happens when we do that. Okay, we can also actually print this to confirm that we are getting the member ID, because I want to show you something. So let's go ahead and hit save. And back to the Discord. So I have joined. Let's see, which is fine. So this is the ID that I have joined. And now what happens when I leave? So if I go there, right. So you can see it printed out the ID who left, but you can see that it has thrown an error, which is attribute error right there. Because once you have left it, it doesn't know your state any longer. But because that we have declared this variable right there, it was able to capture who's that person has left the channel, right? So what we're going to do in this case, we're actually going to capture this. So I'm going to slightly go different this time, so that we're basically going to catch that error. And once that happens, we're actually going to remove that person, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to go down and say try, and I'm going to put that in a try except block. So I'm going to push this down a bit, right? So that it indented, okay? And then I'm going to come out all the way where it's exactly the try is. And I'm going to say except, and then attribute error. Okay, I'm going to pass it for now. Just going to go down here. So that's what's going to happen. So once when we try to capture this, obviously the method doesn't know any longer what's the state of that member. But we are able to capture the ID of the member. And what we're going to do, we're going to remove that member from that JSON file and update the file basically, right? So I'll remove the password now. I can say remove voice data. That's part of the logic. And let's iterate over the file. So for remove keys, and then remove values, because the file we're saving, they are in key pair values. So we're going to iterate through both that. So key remove, I'm going to say values in, and I'm going to call that, so which is voice member data, and I'm going to say dot items. So I'm going to iterate through entire array object right there, and I'm going to say if member, which is the member ID right on the over here. So if that member ID actually that is about to exit the channel is in the remove values, then go ahead and remove that value, right? So remove values dot remove, remov, and then within there I'm going to pass in the member ID itself. But there's another thing you probably noticed that. Let me just quickly explain why I have used the remove functions here, because we also use something called .pop. So pop, when you use pop, when you have index values and when you have actually given a value, then you use remove, just to let you know. And then I'm gonna come out of the for loop. I'm gonna say with, and I'm gonna update the file. So with open, and let's go ahead and copy this, right? I'm going to say as remove voice member data. Remove voice member data. That should be right. And I'm going to dump it. JSON.dump. And I'm going to say voice, where exactly do I want it? When in voice member data, and then whichever the updated data is, which is remove, and then indent, which is equal to 4. And that should cover for our removing the members. Now let's go ahead and test this just to ensure everything is working correctly. So I'm going to stop the program running. Gonna go ahead again, hit save just in case, and I'm gonna start running, or you can actually go ahead and hit select main, right click on main.py and run if you're using this ID. Anyway, the bot is up. Let's go back, and now I'm gonna join, and let's go back here real quick and see if I'm okay. So it is able to capture this. We'll come out, and now let's go ahead and remove ourselves from the channel, and let's go back here, and if I look at here, and you can see that has removed the user ID, which is my ID, from that channel ID itself. So that's working perfectly, guys. So finally, to fulfill our programming logic here, what we're trying to achieve, the last step is to basically now edit that channel. So basically every time it's going to update this channel, so it's going to have some values like 1 sort of stuff. So if there's one member joined here, like me, myself here, then it should say 1. And once I leave from here, then it should have 0. Make sense? And so like this, basically, it should have something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this channel. And So we're going to implement that. But the thing is that you need to understand that in every channel, every voice channel, you can edit the channel every 10 minutes. Do correct me here, but I did read the documentation, so this is why I am informing you. So do not expect it to be updating immediately. This is why I set the logic this way, that even your members are joining immediately and leaving immediately, it will only update if they have stayed there for 10 minutes or so long. So every 10 minutes, it will update the number of people are on every voice channel or whatever in this case. And you can also not only update number of channels, voice channels, but you can actually have so if I go back here to give you an example, so you can see there's some server stats in our server. So basically you can have it like that, right? So you can have it like that too. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna go out of this and gonna say add task dot loop, and I'm gonna set that to loop every 1 minute for now because we are testing, but normally when you will download the code, it will be set to 10 minutes by standard. All right, okay, let's go down here and I'm gonna say async. I'm gonna write a method async def voice channel update. Right, and switch is going to take itself. So it's just a static method that's going to literally update every time. So it's going to start running. Also, I'm just going to pass it here. Before we can do that, let's go ahead and append our task. So basically, we need to add that task whenever our bot runs. So the task should start. Let's reformat this real quick. So I'm going to go up here. Going to come up right here. And I'm going to say add commands.cog.listener. And let's go down and I'm going to say async define onReady. onReady. It's going to take itself. And over here, I'm going to say self.voice. So the voice channel update, the method that's going to loop. So this method right here, this one, voice channel update. So, and then what we're going to say, we're going to start that. Right, so it will start as a task. And let's go down here. Now, once we have that started, so every 10 minutes it's going to run, assuming right now, obviously right now it's going to start it's going to run every minute. So once that happens, what we want to do, we want to open the file, read the channels, and update those channels with the size of an array. So, excuse me. So you can see if there are like, let's say this is one of the channel, then two, then three, basically like that. We're gonna have all the channel IDs, right? And this is also an array which you can actually take a length of that array and find out how many channels are stored, right? If there are three, and if you check the length of an array of that, then it's gonna give you 3, right? So that's what we're going to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove these two. Hit save. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to comment here also. So I'm going to say update all voice channel stats every 10 minutes, obviously. That's for when you have the final version, but for now it's 1 minute. Okay. Let me go in there. It's just gonna say with open. And let's go ahead and open this file. And I'm gonna change that to read now because we're gonna read the file. And I'm gonna say as file. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna load it. So I'm gonna say voice member data, right, equals to JSON.load, and we'll say load the file. Gonna go down. Gonna iterate through now for our routine update. So routine update keys, and basically I'm gonna copy this and then gonna say values in voice member data dot items, right? And now we're gonna say if it's not basically if it's not there, so when the member will when the channel will be empty, right? So then what will happen here? It will be completely gone. So right, this array will be like nothing. There will be nothing. You have probably seen that. During on the last previous demo where we showed how when we're storing the data and removing the data, once we remove it becomes empty. So when it's empty, I want it to show 0, right? That's going to be a static method. Static number. So it's going to be 0, nothing more than that. And when there is a member, then go ahead and basically update with the correct number. So that's going to happen. So if not routine update values, then we're going to say reset channel equals to self dot bot get underscore channel. We're going to get the channel. So we're going to get the channel with the keys, but remember our keys are stored as a string, but this method actually expects an integer. So we need to turn that into an int. So int routine values, actually keys, keys, because the key is our channel ID, and then we're going to await reset channel dot edit, and then we're going to pass in the name is equal to, and we're going to give a little emoji right here, so which is basically you, and then the string, and then backslash, and then capital U, then 1 2 3 1F, and then 449. So this is ASCII code for that emoji. Just being a little cautious. And now we want to give a little space also, so you can have that ASCII code too. So I'm gonna say backslash right here. Actually, I'm gonna go in there. Backslash again, then U0020. Perfect. It should be small actually. Perfect. It's all good. And then space and the number 0. So that's what's gonna display. We're gonna come out of here. I'm gonna say else. What's gonna happen is that update underscore channel, update the channel with the number. So basically self dot bot dot get channel, and then we basically gonna get the channel again. So literally I'm gonna just copy this one right here. I'm gonna come out here, and literally I'm gonna again do that. Could also copy this one, but here I'm gonna remove this reset channel. I'm gonna say update channel. So basically that variable, and edit, and literally I'm gonna remove the 0, and I'm gonna open parentheses and close parentheses, and I'm gonna use the dot format method. So dot format, And then I'm going to take the length of that array, which is basically the values, this one, and literally output that. So that should do it. So if there is no value, then show 0. If there is number of items out there in the array, then get the length of that array and edit the channel with that number. Basically, that's what's gonna happen. So let's go ahead and hit save, and we can hit run. We'll go to our Discord real quick. Actually, I'm just gonna stop this one and go here. I actually did not create a channel, so I'm gonna call it test here, create channel. Let's go ahead and hit run because okay, why did I close this one? Sorry, because I know this is running for a minute, so after the minute, because I have to be there, so let's go ahead and hit play, right click and run. Okay, the bot is online, so what I'm gonna do is join that channel and wait for obviously 60 seconds now, and hopefully that should update, and if we get an error, hopefully it will output over here too. And you can see 1 is showing, so every 1 minute basically you're supposed to update this channel, so it updated that channel. And now what happens when I leave? So if I leave this channel, it will go to 0, right? So obviously now it's gonna go for one more minute. It's gonna run the loop for another minute. So after 1 minute, it should run it, and there you go. It went to 0. So there are no members. So this is how this will work. Now, in the case of if you want to update a specific channel, or if you're taking that channel as an input, remember, so if you're asking your user to set this command, so you need to ensure that that channel is stored, channel ID is stored somewhere. And if not, and you just want to easily go ahead and just grab, for example, create channel, and let's say test. And rather than that, could be this could be your voice channel where people are joining and leaving, right? And this is where you're probably showing your stats. Then what you're gonna do, you're gonna actually copy that ID and go back here, and all you're going to do is replace over here. So you see where it says int routine update keys, all you're gonna do is replace with that ID right there, so that it will obviously update that specific channel. You can have, I don't know, 10, 20 channels, a voice channel where people are joining and leaving, and every time it's going to update for all of them, so then it basically will show that over there. Okay, perfect. So that's it for this tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I did enjoy it too. And I'm looking forward to more tutorials coming in soon. If you like this video, go and hit the thumbs up button, and please do share and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.